The telephone distribution system is a rather complex connection of wires. When the telephone line pairs leave the central office, they're usually bundled into very large cables that include hundreds, if not thousands, of other telephone lines. Each one of these telephone wires is color-coded by one of 10 colors. One side of the telephone lines will use 5 basic sets of colors, and the other side another set of 5 basic colors. While this may not seem like much to you, let me tell you that it can become extremely difficult to identify which wire belongs to the correct pair of wires, like the ones used for your home phone. For example, in a telephone cable with 200 pairs of wires, there are going to be 40 white wires and 40 blue wires. While these wire pairs are manufactured with a defined specification of twisting the wires together, they frequently become untwisted at splice points, used to extend or connect other cables to it. At this point, let's say the white wire from one side of your telephone line may be accidentally spliced to the white wire of somebody else's telephone line. This happens fairly frequently. It is often the problem that people have when their telephone line seems to be connected to another telephone line. In other words, when you hear somebody else's conversations while you're on the phone. The telephone company repairman often can't locate the specific location where the wire pairs were accidentally misspliced without using some rather sophisticated equipment. So they simply resplice the correct wires to the correct pair somewhere down the line. Okay, you're probably asking yourself, why is this important or even relevant? Well, the answer is very simple, in that the split and the resplit of the cable pairs makes an unbelievably good inductive wiretap with the telephone cable pair that it was accidentally split and then resplit with. I know if I were to ever become a professional wiretapper, this is one of the types of techniques I would definitely use, since I could use the existing telephone cables to make my inductive wiretap. And the phone company would never accidentally discover it when opening up a telephone pedestal or a splice spoon. And no wiretap detection equipment can detect this type of wiretap. Again, this type of attack is very detectable, but only with expensive time-domain reflectometer equipment manufactured for other purposes and not wiretap detection. And even if the TSCM technician owns this piece of equipment, very few know how to properly operate it and know enough about the phone system to have it all make sense. I know that many of you are probably saying to yourself, this is pretty boring stuff, so please move on. But I can't stress enough how this and other forms of telephone wire manipulation makes telephone wiretaps so hard to detect. As a matter of fact, in one of my classes at Texas A&M, I had 3 men from Bell Labs who were in attendance. One told me that I was full of hogwash and that he could easily detect this type of wiretap. Well, naturally, we made a little wager. I then used this type of attack on one of 5 pre-identified telephone lines. After 2 hours of testing and looking, he could not tell which line I tapped. Hopefully you're getting this now because I'm going to move on. Many spy shops sell simple taps that don't require any knowledge of the phone system other than how to plug in your phone line. Today, wiretaps come packaged into simple phone plugs and line splitters that look almost exactly like those you'd buy at most any electronics store. All of these include small radio transmitters to send your conversations over the radio waves. Luckily, these little wiretapping devices are very easy to electronically detect and can be found by most TSCM technicians, assuming they performed their test for radio bugs while the phone is off hook and the phone line is in use. Okay, now let's talk about the complexities of the office telephone system and how they affect the wiretapper. While I can't cover all the system possibilities, I'll use a simple PBX as an example. First of all, you should know that a PBX is like a small telephone company central office, and that it gives you dial tone when you lift the handset off hook. And you can directly dial other extensions within the office. Only when you press 9 does the PBX connect you to an outside line connected to the phone company. The telephone line connected between your telephone instrument and the PBX is typically not shared with other telephone lines, and therefore can be easily wiretapped. However, you should know that most PBX phone systems digitally encode your voice at the telephone instrument, so that only digital data, not analog voice like on your home phone, is sent over the internal phone lines. What this means is that many of the wiretaps commonly sold won't typically work on an office PBX system. This doesn't mean that your lines can't be tapped, because they can be. It just means that the wiretapper has to buy one of the commercially available PBX wiretaps, or he has to use a lot more creativity and use components designed to decode the digital communications sent over the phone line. And the wiretap detection techniques are mostly similar to the techniques used to detect a standard high-impedance wiretap. Now, let me jump to the subject of how most PBX systems are connected to the phone company's central office. These telephone lines are frequently referred to as trunk lines. When you dial 9 to access an outside line, the PBX, which is actually a special type of computer, randomly connects you to one of these trunk lines. In other words, if the wiretapper taps one of the trunk lines, he'd be intercepting random conversations from various users in your office. You're probably thinking that I have a direct dial number and that my situation is a little different. Well, it's not. A direct dial phone number is merely a number the telephone company uses to send a telephone call to your PBX over the trunk lines. And then the PBX's computers make the decision to connect the call to your phone in your office. Believe me, there's a whole lot more to this than what I'm explaining, but it would take hours, not minutes, to delve into all the complexities of this. The point is that your office can still be wiretapped. It's just usually different from wiretapping your home phone. Oh, by the way, don't be misled into thinking that many of the new voice-over internet systems are more secure, because they're not. Today we live in a world of bold computer hackers who love to intercept information off the internet. There's one more very important issue that we need to talk about here. Most PBX systems have a diagnostic line which is remotely accessible. This line is used by the company who sold your PBX system to your company to perform diagnostics and program changes from a remote location. On most PBX systems, someone accessing this line can eavesdrop on any extension of his or her choice. There's a simple way to counter this threat, by the way, and that's to unplug the line from your PBX modem when it's not in use. If you work with a large company that has its own IT or telephone department, then you should seek their cooperation on this matter. Okay, that's going to wrap it up for this chapter, and I hope you've learned something. In the next chapter, I'm going to discuss the various ways to pick up room audio by using the telephone instrument, as well as other devices which can be connected to your telephone line that allows the eavesdropper to listen in from anywhere in the world. I'll see you there.